Ryobi's new compact impact driver. Is it good enough for a pro? We'll find out. I'm Tim Johnson. You're watching Shop Tool Reviews. So just this month, Ryobi released a brand new line of tools called their ONE+ HP compact tool line. Now, right now there's 6 tools in that lineup, and we've got a video that talks about all those different tools. And one of those is this new impact driver. Now they have an impact wrench that we've already reviewed, and they have the impact driver. You can buy the impact driver by itself, or you can buy it kitted with the drill driver as well. By itself, I think is $129. With the kit, you get two 1.5 amp hour batteries, the charger and the drill driver and impact driver for $179. So that's a pretty good deal. Like I said, tool alone, so tool by itself, impact driver by itself, it'll run you $129. Model number is the PSB ID01CN. And again, it's the 1/4 inch impact driver. One of the cool things, we show this over here on the workbench, is that this self-release chuck, if you will, so you can just one-handed pull that out, it will eject the bit, and then with one hand you can also push that back in. Now, also understand, once you push that out, if you happen to tap that ring, sometimes that'll go back in, so you may have to pull it out. But if you pull it all the way out, it'll kind of lock into place so that then you can put that bit in with one hand. So that's very handy sometimes. Sometimes you only got one hand available. Put those bits in, so that's really nice. Now, what they claim is 1,700 inch-pounds of force, which if you divide by 12 gives you right at 140 foot-pounds. Also 2,900 RPMs and 3,800 impacts per minute. Now, again, they're putting this in a compact category. So Ryobi's saying, hey, we want to go after the pro in the compact series. So when they say that, I take 2 things into account. Number one, they're saying pro. I get that. Number 2, they're saying compact. So they're not saying, hey, compare this against the biggest and best of the pros that are out there of, you know, red, green, and yellow. They're not saying that. They're saying, hey, we know the pros are looking for compact tools. We want to give them a compact tool, and we think it's good enough to be a pro. Also get a 3-year warranty on this. So as a professional tool, 3-year warranty and in it somewhere around $100, that's a pretty good deal. So let's actually put this over on the test bench. Let's use it to run some nuts in and out, as well as to run some deck screws, and then we'll come back and wrap this up. So this is the brand new Ryobi ONE+ HP impact driver. That's part of that HP tool lineup that Ryobi's, you know, claiming they could make the pro category. So we're going to test it out here. 1/4 inch drive, impact driver, like all your impact drivers are going to be. And we're going to test this first on some hex fasteners or some big nuts here that we have on our test bench. So I am having to use, of course, a 1/4 inch to anvil adapter to 3/8, and then a 3/8 to 1/2 inch adapter as well. So there is a little bit of power loss there, but I don't think it'll be much. We're running the 1.5 amp hour battery that comes with a kit if you get this with the drill driver kit. But we're also going to test it on a 4 amp hour battery as well. But out of the gate, let's test it with the battery you can get it paired with. On this brushless tool, now all the ONE+ HP tools are brushless tools. However, some of the Ryobi tools actually take advantage of the 3rd prong here on these later model batteries, on the ONE+ and HP batteries that have the 3rd prong on it. That takes advantage of that to possibly add more power to the tool. However, inside the tool you'll notice there's only 2 prongs, so it's not taking advantage of that 3rd one. But regardless, just kind of wanted to show you that. What they claim here is 1,700 inch-pounds of force. Now, that basically equates to, you divide that by 12 and you get about 141 foot-pounds, or 140, let's just call it 140 foot-pounds. Now, they don't distinguish between loosening and fastening torque. In the construction world, typically you're concerned about fastening. In the mechanic world, typically you're concerned about loosening, or what they would call nut-busting torque. We're going to test both sides of it just to see. I'll be curious to know if it really has 140 foot-pounds. I'll be a little surprised if so. What I'm first going to do, I'm going to torque each one of these to 100 foot-pounds and just see if one after the other it will break those free. And then what we'll do, then we'll bump that up to 140 foot-pounds and see how it does. and then we'll look at the actual fastening side of things and see how much fastening torque it's got. So let me turn my torque wrench on here, and it's set at 100 foot-pounds. And so we'll go ahead and tighten these down. 100.3. 101. 100.1. 101.1. And 100.4. So all these are right at 100 foot-pounds. And so let's see now if we can take this and if we can back off those 5 nuts at 100 foot-pounds. And by the way, there are no modes on this, so there's no, like their impact wrench was a 4-mode or a 3-mode and an auto mode impact wrench. On the impact driver, you do not get any mode, so everything is max. You get a variable speed trigger here, so you can go as slow as you want, little power as you want, and then ramp that up to wide open. So again, you just had a forward and reverse trigger here, and that's about it. So 100 foot-pounds, let's see what we get. No problem. No problem. So 5 in a row at 100 foot-pounds. I'm going to say that's, hey, out of such a small and cheap tool, that's pretty impressive that you're getting 100 foot-pounds of breakaway force on that. And again, when you're dealing with a 1/4-inch hex drive here, there's not a whole bunch more force that it's going to take. Now, do they make more powerful impact drivers? Absolutely. Should you be doing more work than that with an impact driver? No. You should be stepping up to an impact wrench. But let's go ahead and let's test and see if we can get 140 foot-pounds out of it, and then we'll go from there. So let me snug these back on here. All right, so now let's bump this up to 140. So now we're at 140 foot-pounds. So now let's tighten these. 141.7. 139.5, I'll take that. 141.2. 143.7. And 140.3. So we've got those all tightened down to 140 foot-pounds, or at least 140 foot-pounds. I think one was a ½ pound off, but I think we can live with that. So let's see if it'll break away 140 foot-pounds. I think it's going to struggle here. I don't know yet. I really haven't tried this yet. Again, we're running the 1.5 amp hour battery. We're still at 4 bars, and let's see what we get. I am impressed. I really didn't think it would be able to do that. And I know that, listen, I know that fastening torque and breakaway torque are 2 different things. So being able to loosen a 140 foot-pound bolt, I know it doesn't require as much force as tightening to that. I get that. But still, I'm impressed that this thing will handle backing off 140 foot-pounds. I mean, that's enough to do a lug nut. I am not recommending you use this to take off lug nuts. That's not what it's meant for. Don't buy it for that. You'll not be happy. So anyway, but you know, most torques or most lug nuts are supposed to be torqued at 140 foot-pounds on light trucks, and you know, roughly 100 foot-pounds on cars. So that's enough to do it. But let's go ahead and let's do some fastening torque tests. And what we'll do, we'll tighten these down, and then we'll use our factor of say 80% to divide by, and that should give us a good estimate of fastening torque. And if you don't trust that equation, I've got a full video on that explains torque and breakaway torque and tightening torque. So I'm not going to explain that right now, but I'm just going to use my factor and go with it. So let's go ahead and tighten these. Let me snug this up where we're not cheating by getting some rotations first. Okay, so now these nuts are just snugged up. And now what I'm going to do, I'm going to hold this on. Once it starts impacting, I'm going to give it 5 seconds, move to the next one. So give it 5 seconds to impact each one of these. We'll use our torque wrench to break them away, and then we'll use our factor to get a good breakaway or get a good fastening torque number. So here we go. Okay, there we go. We got 5 good pulls there, and now we're going to use our torque wrench here. We'll break those away, and then we'll record that data. Okay, so we've got our nice handy dandy notepad, and we'll use our torque wrench here, and we'll record that data. So let's break these free. $77.9 foot-pounds. 101.2 foot-pounds. 77. 94.4. And the last one, 72.6. Now I didn't have this strapped down. What I'm going to do that 5 more times just to make sure that we've got some good average data to go with. Okay, now let's test these. 82.7. 84. 66.3. 77.4. And 80.5. So now we got 10 good numbers there that then we'll divide by 0.8, and that'll give us, that's our factor, and then that should give us our fastening torque. Okay, so what we got here when we divided by our factor of 0.8, then basically we got 97.4, 126.5, 96.3, 118, 90.8, 103.4, 105, 82.9, 96.8, and 100.6, giving us an average fastening torque of 101 foot-pounds. So the average that we measured was 81.4, and then when we use our factor, because it's always easier to loosen something than tighten something, and typically that's about a 20% difference, that's why we divide by 0.8, and that gives us our 101 foot-pounds. So a little short of the 140 foot-pounds that they claim, but again, they do not claim that it's fastening torque. And we showed that it would definitely break away a 140 foot-pound Titan bolt. So I'm going to give Ryobi the check mark that it's delivering what they say, even though they weren't real specific. But it's tightening to about 100 foot-pounds is what we're seeing there. So we're seeing about 100 foot-pounds of fastening torque, but yet the breakaway torque that it's got enough to break away 140 foot-pound nut. Now, here's what I want to do. I want to change this battery out, and I want to see what kind of difference we have, if at all. Maybe we'll try 10 of those again, and then we'll see what kind of difference we got. With the 4 amp hour battery, it's full, and let's see what we get. Okay, so now let's see what kind of force it takes to break these free. Make sure our torque wrench is on here. Yep. So we'll use our factor on that, and we'll see what we get. So using our 4.0 amp hour battery made quite a bit of difference. So you could see what we had was 90.1, 104.5, 84.5, 88.9, and 102.2, which gave us an average of what it took to break those away at 94.4. So when we divide by our 0.8, that gives us a larger number of 112.6, 130.6, 105.6, 111.1, and 127.8, which is an average of 117. Now, that's 16 foot-pounds greater than the average with the 1.5 amp hour battery. So you're looking at what, 15% difference of an increase over the 1.5 amp hour battery. So that's quite a bit of difference just stepping up to a 4 amp hour battery in that average of fastening torque, if you will. So would definitely recommend, if you're running a lot of bolts and if you are using this as a somewhat of a pro or on the job site, if you will, definitely recommend you getting a 4.0, 3.0, 4.0, maybe even a 6.0 battery. Probably a 4. I think a 4 is a good size, that it's got definitely more capacity, but it's not too heavy. 6 amp hours, just getting really heavy. But that's going to really help that tool out in both fastening and loosening torque. So you definitely see that it made a difference there. Now let's run a few screws in, and then we'll get back to wrapping this up. So now what we're going to do, we're going to actually take some deck screws, run it into 2 pieces of LVL. LVL, very, very hard stuff, a lot more dense than, say, your typical 2x and 4x material. So we're going to run it in there, see how well it does. I know a lot of people are really pushing these things. I don't see Ryobi marketing it as that. Yes, they're marketing to the pro, but they're claiming a compact tool, 1,700 inch-pounds of force or 140 foot-pounds of force. So I'm going to run some deck screws. We're going to run this into that, see if it works. But if you're trying to drive these screws, it's the wrong tool. So again, I don't know how to emphasize that enough. We'll do one just so somebody doesn't say something about it. But anyway, I would say running 3 or 4 inch deck screws is probably the biggest screw you need to be running with this machine, with this tool. If you're running something bigger than that, you're wanting to drive screws longer than that, denser material, what have you, get a different tool. But that's what we're going to test it on. We're going to see, we'll run 10 or so screws in the LVL, see how quick it does it. Let me mention one thing on the bit holder here. You see this on a lot of higher end tools, and the ability of one-hand release. So I can pop this out. It's actually going to eject that. So nice spring in there to eject that out. It also kind of locks that collet out here, so that now I can take my bit, and once I can just shove it in with one hand as well. And now it's locked into place. So that's nice. One hand release and one hand to insert the bit as well. So let's run a few of these deck screws in here, and we'll see how it does. So we've run 6 3-inch deck screws into the 2-ply of LVL, and we've still got 3 bars left on our battery. That's the same battery I used on the nuts as well to break those free. I've not recharged it, not changed that out, other than when we put the 4 amp hour battery on there, but that is the same battery. So it does take a little bit of effort to put that in. I mean, I'm not having to help it whatsoever, but it's not like it just zips it in really quick. So it does take a little bit of effort. So I would say pro model impacts are definitely going to drive those quicker. Will it do it? Yes. If you're running, 2-inch deck screws or 2-inch drywall screws, something like that, or just removing small nuts and bolts, I think it's going to do, it's going to do very decent. Again, depends on what you're doing day in and day out. So I'm going to drive this one, or I'm going to try to. I really don't have a lot of high hopes for it. I almost don't want to do it just because I just don't think it makes sense. It really doesn't. But I'm going to go ahead and do it anyway. So I'll put this up here. So it definitely doesn't sink the head. You see it took quite a bit of effort to drive that down there. Again, I think that's just too much of a, that's more than that tool's going to handle. May not even show that because I don't like doing that. So I was going to show driving that longer screw, but I'm really not going to. I don't think it's necessary. I think this tool, they're claiming it to be a compact tool. They're not claiming, it is, that's what it is. It's their compact series that they're saying is good for the pro. So I'm going to say if you're driving, 3-inch and smaller screws into lumber or LVL, or, running decks or drywall, or using this for, in and around vehicles to remove smaller nuts and bolts with a hex adapter, a hex to anvil adapter, I think it'll be a great tool. So there you have it. Okay, so some pretty interesting results. I will be honest, I thought when we stepped up to this big old socket, having to go from a 1/4 inch to a 3/8 and then 3/8 to a 1/2 inch, that we wouldn't see as much performance as we did. So we saw it break free 140 foot-pound nuts. Hey, they're claiming it's 140 foot-pounds. They don't claim loosening or tightening, so I would assume they're meaning loosening. It did its job on that. Now, as far as fastening torque, I think we saw with a 1.5 amp hour, right at 101 foot-pounds, and with the 4 amp hour, 117 foot-pounds. So again, not bad. My point is, if you're looking to drive, lug nuts, take lug nuts on and off, not the tool for it. If you're looking to drive 5-inch deck screws, not the tool for that. But, running a couple-inch deck screws, even up to 3-inch deck screws like we did it struggle to do these? A little bit. I mean, definitely you compared it to a top-of-the-line pro tool, you're going to get quite a bit better performance stepping up to a more heavier-duty tool, if you will. But as a compact tool, I would think that you're running, smaller fasteners, and as you need to, it's going to run these quite fine. So it depends on what you're looking for in a tool, really and truly, as to whether or not this is a good fit for you. Now, I think it does a decent job. I think it does a good job. I've seen a lot of people push these to where they smoke, push these to where, seeing if the intelligence works on it. I didn't do that. I just don't know that it makes sense. Again, they're claiming it's a compact tool. I tested it as such. I think it, rings true to being able to break free that 140 foot-pounds. I think it drives screws decently. Again, if you're looking for more than that, get a bigger and badder tool. Ryobi even makes a bigger impact driver. Maybe you need to step up to that. Maybe you step up to a Rigid or a Milwaukee or something else. So look at what your needs are and then buy the tool that fits those needs. So I think this inches into that pro category as a compact tool to do lighter duty stuff. Running nuts on and off that are 13 millimeter 1/2 inch, I think it's a great tool for that, especially when they're 3/8 and 10 millimeters. Yeah, great. 8 millimeter bolts, excellent. 2-inch screws, 2-inch drywall screws, even 3-inch deck screws, great. It's going to get the job done for you, let you make some money and buy whatever you want. So check it out. I think it's worth you taking a look at. They'll be hitting the shelves this month at Home Depot. Again, $129 for the bare tool and impact driver. If you get it with the drill driver and the 2 batteries, that's going to be $179. Now, I would recommend this. I mentioned this in the video over there. I would recommend if you're doing some hard-hitting stuff, if this is not just a DIY tool for you, step up to a 4 amp hour battery. 3 amp hour, 4 amp hour, 6 amp hour, something bigger. than the 1.5 amp hour. You're going to get better performance as well as you're going to get longer run time as well. So make sure you check out the new Ryobi ONE+ HP impact driver and the rest of the tools, and you can find them at your local Home Depot or at homedepot.com. Also keep track of us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Hey, have a great day and keep smiling.